At the beckon of twilight, when night enclose, moving always out of sight, the Master of Shadows. The Master of Shadows is an Imperial who was born into wealth within the city of Bruma. His family's considerable wealth meant that he was well educated and trained in several different skills by private tutors. He became an exceptional fencer and an incredible marksman thanks to his training. In addition to his assigned studies, he decided to pursue his own study of illusion magic. His family's wealth came from their success with persuading others, but the Master of Shadows desired to surpass all in his bloodline. He spent many sleepless nights studying and practicing what little knowledge of magic he could get his hands on. It took him several years, but he eventually became quite skilled in the art of illusion, being able to silently cast a handful of spells that helped him influence others. He put these spells to good use, making his family's business ventures even more successful than they already were. This magical influence upon his family's clients came back to haunt him, however, as when he was trying to cast a spell upon a wandering adventurer who his father was trading with, he found that his spell didn't work. Somehow the adventurer resisted, and noticed that the Master of Shadows had attempted to put him under his control. The adventurer was outraged, and drew his blade from his side. In a state of panic, the Master of Shadows cast a frenzy spell upon his own father, not thinking of the consequences that his actions would have. Needless to say, the wealthy merchant was no match for a skilled swordsman, and the Master of Shadows watched his father be cut down before his eyes. As the adventurer turned to face him, the Master of Shadows fled as fast as his feet would carry him. He ran straight out of the city, and didn't stop running until he physically couldn't go any further and dropped to the ground. He had no idea where he was, but was glad to see that he hadn't been followed. He took a moment to consider what had happened. If the adventurer told the townspeople what had occurred, then there was no telling what the outcome for him would be, but it certainly wouldn't be anything good. There was no way he would be able to charm everyone with his magic, and if the adventurer was still there, he may well just end up dead. He decided that his best option would be to leave, and venture away from Cyrodiil altogether. He headed north, towards Skyrim. He had nothing of use with him on his journey, and resorted to stealing to keep himself fed and get himself some small amount of gold. He was fairly stealthy, but even if he was caught, he could normally calm whoever caught him with a quick spell and then rapidly leave the scene before they remembered why they had been angry. It wasn't too long before he reached the border and came across a group of soldiers bearing a banner that he didn't fully recognise. Although he had been taught about Skyrim, it wasn't something he had been particularly fond of, and had forgotten most of what he had learnt. He decided that there were too many to steal from, but instead he tried to convince the small party that it would be beneficial for them to travel together. As he was speaking, a force of Imperial soldiers charged forwards and surrounded the group, capturing them and the Master of Shadows with them. This is where our adventure begins. When distributing your level ups, I recommend splitting them fairly evenly between Magicka, Health and Stamina. You can then tailor this slightly as fits your needs. If you want to cast more illusion spells, then put a few more points into Magicka. If you're engaging in open combat regularly, then add some to Health. And if you want to make this build even more of a stealth archer, then add some to Stamina for increased zoom time. The main skills for this build are Archery, One-Handed, Sneak and Illusion. Your main weapons are a bow and a sword, so obviously you will want to invest into the skills that will increase their effectiveness. Sneak is a critical skill for this build. You want to avoid detection as much as possible, and having a high sneak skill will ensure this. In addition, the sneak tree will let your sneak attacks deal even more damage, helping you kill enemies in a single blade stroke or with one precise arrow. In addition, this build will utilise illusion magic in a multitude of ways. Spells such as Detect Life and Invisibility will help with your stealth, and the Frenzy spells are a great way to thin out large groups of enemies. Make sure to grab the Quiet Casting perk to make it so that you don't make any noise when casting illusion spells. In addition, you will also use the Light Armour and Speech skills. Neither of these should require heavy perk investment, but having a few points in each will give you better armour values for the rare occasion in which you do get caught, and also grant you better prices when buying and selling, increasing your gold revenue. The standing stone I recommend for this build is the Atronach stone, for the increase in Magicka. The spell absorption has its uses, but due to your proficiency with the blade and bow, mages don't last too long around you. The slower regeneration of magicka is a little annoying, but illusion spells last a decent amount of time, so you normally will only be casting 1 or 2 at a time, and you don't really need to be casting them throughout prolonged combat. In terms of powers, I don't have many specific recommendations. The Imperial racial power is good for calming large groups of enemies, but other than that, just use any powers or shouts you can get which help to increase your effectiveness with stealth. The weapons for this build are the Nightingale Blade and Nightingale Bow. These weapons are some very powerful uniques that you will get by going through the Thieves Guild questline. I recommend waiting until you are a fairly high level before getting these, as the enchantments on them increase in strength as you raise in level up to level 46. If you wait until you're level 46 or higher, the weapons you get will be the best possible versions of themselves. The armour of this build is a full set of Nightingale armour. As well as an amazing aesthetic, this will grant you a bunch of useful enchantments, including Muffle, Fortify One-Handed and Fortify Illusion. As with the weapons, you want to grab the highest leveled version of this you can. You'll want to wait until you're at least level 32, but if you have decided to get the highest leveled weapons, then you'll already be in the high 40s when you get this gear. In addition, I recommend getting the Amulet of Articulation. This unique necklace will give you better chances to persuade in dialogue, and increase your speechcraft by 5 to 35%, depending on which enchantment you get. Unlike the weapons and armour, this isn't based on level, but it is instead random, so I suggest saving your game before you get the amulet, and reloading until you get the version you want. There are several factions you will want to join whilst playing this build. Obviously you will need to join the Thieves Guild, as this is where you will gain your weapons and armour. In addition, it's a great way to earn gold, and gives you access to fences, who you can sell your stolen goods to. In addition, I highly recommend joining the Volkihar Vampires. Playing as a vampire adds a whole new element to the build, and really promotes nighttime gameplay. In addition, the Master of Shadows is fueled by greed. Although his main focus is on gold, there is no way that he would pass up the chance of immortality. If you want to make even more money and are happy to kill anyone you're told, then also join the Dark Brotherhood. This is a very powerful stealth build, so it is ideal for this faction. You can easily eliminate targets, and then even if you get caught, you can calm down your attackers with illusion magic. You can even cast Frenzy on your target, and watch them fight everyone until they die. Lastly, you may also want to join the Bard's College. This certainly isn't the most in-depth of factions, but it does help you level up, and gives you access to a few trainers. For me personally, I joined just as a way to help out with speech, in order to maximise how much gold the Master of Shadows could make. There is only one follower I recommend for this build, and that is Serena. She's quite easily my favourite follower in the game, as she has some real depth and uses a nice variety of magic and weapons effectively. Admittedly, I didn't play very much with a companion, as I didn't really feel it was needed, but Serena is definitely the best choice if you don't want to travel alone. This build will focus on making itself a lot of money, so you want to steal any valuables you can get your hands on and get every septim you can out of merchants. In terms of combat, you can approach in a few different ways, but you will always want to remain stealthy for as long as possible. I personally recommend casting a Frenzy spell whilst hidden if you are facing multiple opponents, and then taking out any dangerous foes with your bow whilst they are fighting one another. You can also calm lone targets before sneaking behind them and slicing their throat with your sword. Thank you very much for watching my latest Skyrim build. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date with all of my content. Share this video with anyone you know who's been enjoying playing Skyrim, and tell me below in the comments what you thought of this video. Like if you enjoyed, and I will see you all in my next video.